March 24th, 1945. Somewhere over Berlin. A formation of B-17 flying fortresses drones through flak-torn skies, their silver bodies glinting in the cold European sun. Below them, the burning heart of the Third Reich. Above them, a swarm of Luftwaffe fighters, Focke-Wulf 190s and Messerschmitt 109s, hungry for American blood. And between them, a screen of P-51 Mustangs with bright red tails. The German pilots had heard the rumors. Black American pilots, flying escort. They laughed at first. Propaganda, they thought. A joke. The Americans were so desperate they'd put Negroes in fighters? But the laughter died in their throats when the red tails dove. By the time the smoke cleared, 3 German aircraft were falling toward the earth. The bombers, every single one, made it home. This wasn't luck. This was the Tuskegee Airmen. And this is their story. Men told they weren't smart enough to fly, told they didn't have the courage, told their place was on the ground, not in the clouds. Men who proved every single one of those lies wrong at 25,000 feet. At 400 miles per hour, with cannon shells screaming past their canopies. The Germans mocked them until they met them. Then they learned to fear the red tails. It started in 1941, in the Jim Crow South, Tuskegee, Alabama, a place where black Americans couldn't drink from the same water fountain as whites, couldn't sit in the same train car, couldn't eat at the same lunch counter. And now, the Army Air Corps wanted to teach them to fly fighters. Not because they believed in equality, not because it was the right thing to do, but because pressure was mounting. Civil rights groups, black newspapers, Eleanor Roosevelt herself, all demanding the military give black Americans a chance to serve as pilots. So the Army created what they called an experiment. A segregated training program at Tuskegee Army Airfield. And they designed it to fail. The standards were higher. The washout rate, brutal. Every mistake was magnified. Every failure, proof that the experiment should be shut down. The men who entered that program knew the truth. They weren't just training to be pilots. They were fighting to prove their entire race belonged in the cockpit. Benjamin O. Davis, Jr. was among the first. Son of the Army's first black general, Davis had endured 4 years of silence at West Point. Not a single white cadet spoke to him unless required. Now, he was leading men who'd been told their whole lives they weren't good enough. But they were. Every day, they proved it. Ground school, flight training, gunnery practice. The Tuskegee Airmen weren't just meeting standards, they were exceeding them. And in 1943, the 99th Fighter Squadron shipped out to North Africa. America's first black fighter unit, heading to war. The men climbed into their P-40 Warhawks with something to prove, not just to the enemy, but to their own country. The white bomber crews they'd soon protect didn't know what to expect. Most had never even met a black pilot. Some didn't believe black men could fly fighters. They were about to learn different. North Africa, Sicily, Italy. The 99th Fighter Squadron flew mission after mission, strafing runs, bomber escort, tactical support. Dangerous work, deadly work. And at first, they were questioned at every turn. After a rough mission over Sicily, a report filtered back stateside. The 99th wasn't aggressive enough, wasn't effective. Maybe the experiment had failed after all. It was a lie, but it was a convenient lie for people who wanted to believe black pilots couldn't cut it. Then, January 27th, 1944, Anzio Beachhead, Italy. The 99th was flying patrol when German fighters appeared, somewhere between 30 and 40 of them. Focke-Wulf 190s, some of the deadliest aircraft in the Luftwaffe. They dove on the Allied positions below, ready to strafe troops and supplies. The Tuskegee pilots didn't hesitate. They slammed their throttles forward and engaged. What followed was chaos. A whirling, screaming dogfight over the Mediterranean, tracers lacing the sky, engines howling, pilots pulling G's so hard they blacked out. When it was over, the 99th had shot down 12 German aircraft. 12. Without losing a single plane of their own. Suddenly, the question stopped. By spring of 1944, 3 more squadrons joined the 99th, the 100th, 301st, and 302nd, forming the 332nd Fighter Group. They transitioned to P-47 Thunderbolts, then to the aircraft they'd make famous, the P-51 Mustang. And they painted the tails red, bright, unmistakable red. It was practical, a way for bomber crews to identify their escorts. But it became something more, a symbol, a promise. If you saw the red tails, you were safe. Summer 1944. The 332nd Fighter Group was flying deep penetration missions into Germany, escorting B-17s and B-24s to targets in Berlin, Munich, and beyond. This was the most dangerous airspace in the world. Luftwaffe fighters, flak batteries, hours over enemy territory with no margin for error. And the Red Tails did something no other escort group could claim. They never lost a bomber to enemy fighters on their watch. That's not an exaggeration. That's not propaganda. That's documented fact. Of the 200-plus bomber escort missions the 382nd flew, not a single bomber under their protection was shot down by German fighters. Word spread fast among the bomber crews. Request the Red Tails. Fly with the Red Tails. You'll come home. The German pilots learned too. They learned that the red-tailed Mustangs didn't break formation, didn't chase kills into the clouds, didn't abandon their bombers to rack up personal glory. The Red Tails stayed. And if you tried to get through them, they'd cut you apart. Lieutenant Lee Archer shot down 4 confirmed kills in a single day. Captain Wendell Pruitt destroyed 3 German fighters on the ground during a strafing run, then shot down an enemy plane on the way home. And then there was the mission that became legend. March 24th, 1945. Berlin. The longest escort mission of the war, 1,600 miles round trip. The Red Tails were assigned to escort a massive bomber formation striking the German capital. The Luftwaffe threw everything they had at them. Waves of Me-262 jets, Germany's fastest aircraft, nearly untouchable. Nearly. The Red Tails shot down 3 Me-262s that day. 3 jets. One pilot, Charles Brantley, became one of the few American pilots to down a 262 in combat. The bombers? All made it home. Back on the ground, a white bomber pilot walked up to one of the Tuskegee Airmen, shook his hand, said, "Thank you. You saved my life." It wasn't about politics anymore. It wasn't about race. It was about trust. And the Red Tails had earned it. By the time Germany surrendered in May 1945, the numbers told the story. The Tuskegee Airmen flew over 15,000 sorties, destroyed over 260 enemy aircraft, 112 in the air, the rest on the ground. They earned 96 Distinguished Flying Crosses, 14 Bronze Stars, 3 Distinguished Unit Citations, 1 Silver Star. 66 of them didn't come home. And when they did return to America, they came back to the same country that had doubted them. The same segregation, the same hatred. Some were beaten for wearing their uniforms in public, denied service at restaurants, refused jobs they were more than qualified for. But they had proven something that could never be taken away. Courage, skill, and honor have nothing to do with the color of your skin. They broke barriers in the sky that would take decades to break on the ground. In 1948, President Truman desegregated the military. It wasn't just because of the Tuskegee Airmen, but their record made the argument undeniable. You couldn't look at what they accomplished and say Black Americans couldn't serve. Benjamin O. Davis, Jr. became the Air Force's first black general. Lee Archer, one of the finest fighter pilots of the war, continued to inspire generations. And bomber crews who flew under the protection of the Red Tails told their children and grandchildren about the men who brought them home. The Germans mocked the Red Tails. But when the war was over, it was the Tuskegee Airmen who were still standing still, flying, still fighting, still proving that excellence has no color. And that's a lesson that echoes far beyond the skies of World War II. The Red Tails didn't just win a war. They changed a nation.